Tonight we're going to be discussing digital imaging and file handling. Kasi you're going to be shooting a lot of photos and you're going to be culling photos, checking which one works, which one doesn't meet the cut. And you're going to be managing your assets. Okay. So therefore, it's important for this course to understand how digital imaging works and how do we handle that. And we're going to be focusing on Lightroom for this class. If you get Lightroom together with Photoshop, I think it's around, hindi ko alam kung magkano ngayon, but I think it's around 600 pesos per month. And I don't know if student discount applies. I hope it does. Mas bababa pa siguro yan pag na-apply ang student discount. But I haven't tried it. Yeah. So, we understand that in photography before, we don't use SD card. We use film, right? So, during the time na ano pa siya, film pa, it just ends to this part over here. Kasi dyan na-record yung films. But because it's digital now, it goes to the SD card. So therefore, there's a analog to digital conversion. So it means photography is still analog because we are shooting with analog lights. No? Meaning the lights coming from the sun, from the strobe, or whatever light source it is. Ito lahat, this is analog. Everything's analog here. So, after being captured through the lens and everything, it goes through a certain sensors, no? This is where the sensors are going up to there. The sensors are sensitive to red, green, and blue. And therefore, that's where the analog light that's being captured is now being digitized and now being saved in your SD cards. Now, there are different SD cards available. There are SD cards that writes really fast and SD card that writes really slow. So you have to make sure when you're buying an SD card, there's a rating there that says what's the speed, read and write speed of the SD card. So you cannot just get an SD card and put it in your phone camera. You need to find out what's the requirement of your camera. Does it meet what SD card you're using? So there's a matching there. You can always look at the manual from your camera. It would say what's the requirement.
So if you want to go a bit fastest, you should go a bit
even if you go really fast SD card, but if your camera only requires a certain rating, then you'd be wasting your money because the faster card, the more expensive it is.
What is considered a fast?
Fast is around 600 Mbps.
Is it small, like the number here?
What does it say there?
48 MB by the 48 megabytes by seconds.
So that's 48. The fast right now is around 600 to 800.
Very slow.
Yeah. But if your camera would require that speed would be enough, then no need for you to buy the faster one because it won't make any sense anyway. Yeah. My camera requirement is at least 300 Mbps. So, because it writes fast. And it writes around 60 MB per image. So, it needs to write fast, otherwise I can't take my next shot.
If I take the wrong amount and put it in the camera, will the camera not work? Or will it work?
If you put a slower card, it will, but it's gonna hang at times. You would wonder, why is my camera so slow? Like, it takes time for it to allow you to shoot again because it's actually still writing because the card is very slow.
Okay.
So it's gonna hinder you from shooting the next shot.
But no quality issue.
No quality issue.
Okay.
Or sometimes you'll encounter corrupted files because the camera is forcing the card to write faster than what is expected. So yeah, so look at the speed of your card. Does it match the speed requirement of your camera? No need to buy the faster one. Okay. So it means to say that photography, no matter what, is still analog. It's just that it's being digitized after the shot is taken, converted into digital. So let's talk about digital files. So granting the image now has been taken, it's been saved as a digital file. If you look at 1 bit means white or black, okay? Because that's how computer works. That's how digital files work. So in digital world, it's only, when you say 1 bit, it only means white or black. In coding, it only means yes or no, okay? Or positive or negative. It's always just that. So if you look at 2 bit, it becomes 4 options. Now we have the white and black, yes or no. And we go a little bit yes and a little bit no. So meron tayong gray, lighter gray, darker gray. And if you go up to 8-bit, which is a JPEG file, a lot of you I know are shooting JPEG in your camera. That JPEG is an 8-bit file. 8-bit means there are 256 gray levels, from the whitest to the darkest, 256 steps. Okay? So therefore, your image is more smooth because it has options of 256 different steps of gray levels. Okay? So that's 8-bit, that's JPEG. Alright? So how do we convert that? If you have 256 red, because our camera is RGB, no? You have 256 red, and then 256 green, and 256 blue. Combine them all together, so you multiply 256 times 256 times 256, you are going to get 16.8 million color combination, possible color combination. Okay? So therefore, an 8-bit JPEG file is capable. It doesn't mean that what you're shooting is going to take 16.8 million. It's just saying that this is the maximum colors that it can contain and accept. Okay? That's a lot of colors, right? So that's JPEG. So if you're shooting JPEG 8 bits per color, you're gonna get 16.8 possible million color combination. Okay? So that's your JPEG file. So let's talk about RAW versus JPEG. Why do I encourage you to always shoot RAW? And I would really still discourage you to shoot JPEG. But since you're not yet very much acquainted on how to work with RAW files, it's okay. You can shoot JPEG. Later on, if you feel that there's really a need that you need to shoot RAW, then no need to convince you because you're going to convince yourself. So what's the difference between the two? This is a RAW file, and this is a JPEG file. The RAW file, if I'm going to set my camera to shoot RAW, the RAW file, the output is gonna be similar to this. The JPEG and the RAW file is going to look like this. But when you start editing your file, both the RAW file and the JPEG, when you edit the JPEG, you're still gonna get this. When you edit your RAW file, you're gonna get this. This is an edited RAW file. So from the get-go, after you take the shot, because you can set your camera to shoot JPEG and RAW at the same time. So after you take the shot, both the JPEG and the RAW is gonna look like this. So after editing, RAW can produce all those details, while the JPEG, you cannot get more details anymore in the dark areas. Because you cannot stretch JPEG. JPEG is supposed to be designed to be light, easy to communicate, easy to put in email, easy to put on website, easy. It's not designed to be processed. It's not designed to be edited. JPEG is supposed to be straightforward. Okay? So that's the major difference between RAW and JPEG. file size. JPEG would probably be, what, maybe 6 MB? Raw file would be somewhere 24 to 30 MB, so about 3 times more than, parang ano pa nga, 20 times. So it's easy to your memory card in JPEG. This is going to eat a lot of your memory card. So you want to make sure you have enough space in your memory card for this to work around JPEG. Question so far? So who among you are shooting JPEG and who's shooting RAW?
I shoot raw sometimes.
Sometimes. What about the RAW?
I do both.
So both RAW and JPEG at the same time. So the rest, I'm assuming all JPEGs, RAW?
Raw and JPEG.
Good. So you can explore. The good thing about RAW and JPEG is that if you feel like the JPEG is good enough, then go. And then if you, oh wait, I need the image to be edited, then you go to the RAW files and edit it. Well, later on, for me, I used to shoot JPEG and RAW before, but later on, I felt like there's no need to shoot JPEG anymore because anyway, whether I edit my file or not, I only keep one file. I don't have to keep the JPEG version.
Sir, just like the speed, is there a specific like limit for the size of the memory card that you're going to put in the camera?
Wala naman siyang limit. Ang limit niya is the speed read-write. So if you put like, ano bang pinakamalaki na ano ngayon? May mga, is there like 500 gigs? I'm not sure. Mine is just 256, I don't know. So, walang limit siya sa storage. Read and write lang talaga ang limit niya. So, that's RAW versus JPEG. So, question. Do you go local or cloud storage? There's a benefit to both, no? I keep my local drives. In fact, because of an experience like maybe 10 years ago, I lost about 10 terabytes. So my local storage, and I crashed yung 10 terabytes. So my problem now is all my photos are all lost. Of course, no problem with client because I normally just deliver immediately the following day. And in my contract, when I do commercial, it says that once I endorse to them the files, I have no more responsibility to that. So no problem with my commercial shots. My problem is, of course, my personal shots. I love those photos I did. So I lost all of them. So what I did after, I made a backup. So if my budget before is around 10 terabyte per year, what I do now is 20 terabyte per year. Why? Because I need to have a backup. And if you want for long-term purposes, never use portable external drive. These drives are only good for if you need to transfer files from one place to the next. Like, oh, I'm going to give my client 20 gigabytes of files. So what you can do is write it in these portable drives and then send it to your client. The client sends the drive back to you. So that's the purpose of these drives. If you want those that would last longer, you need the one that you need to plug it and it stays in your desktop and it's not moving around. So this is for you to bring wherever you want. You plan to do some of your work outside your office or outside your working area, then use this. But if you want for longer storage, buy the ones that you put in your desktop and then you plug it. That's more reliable. This one, for one, because you bring this a lot, this is going to be moving a lot and banging from one place to the next. And you don't also want to use the SSD, the solid state, because it's too expensive. Probably 1 terabyte of solid state is around what, 12,000 pesos maybe? 1 terabyte of a hard drive version is what, 1,500 pesos? So SSDs are good, but it's very expensive. So never use this as your long-term storage. Always buy the one you put in your desktop and plugs to your outlet.
What do you call it?
Anong tawag dun? Ano ang tawag dun eh? Pero kasi, practicality, hindi talaga siya masisira because you're not bringing it from one place to the next. You're not transporting it a lot. Okay? So in my experience, this drives, nasisira to, easily broken maybe 2-3 years after this is trash. So I normally use the one I still have this when I send to my clients. Okay.
Is this like the old CPU in the computer?
You can do that if you want. Yeah.
This is more like a piece, right?
Yeah.
For the external range.
The external, this one. Yeah. So use that. So it just stays in your desktop, you plug it to the outlet, and then you connect it to your PC for long-term storage. Okay? But this is very portable. Okay? Now what about cloud storage? It's quite expensive before, but now it's a little bit easier and cheaper this time around. What is it? 2.5 terabyte, and Dropbox is around, how much is Dropbox now? 500 pesos maybe? Or 400. That's just 2 terabyte. No? Google is a lot cheaper. I think a 3 terabyte, 500 pesos. The good thing about cloud storage is that what I do, those sessions that I do, that's important to me, I put it in the cloud. Because no portable or no desktop storage is going to beat cloud storage. Because cloud storage has a lot of backups. It's not going to disappear. You're paying for the service. That's why they ask for a premium price, because there's 0.001% chance of you losing your image in cloud storage. So they're expensive, but very reliable. So what I do, because I have a subscription, because often when I communicate with my clients, I put some of the photos there and they just grab it from the cloud. I give them the link. So I maintain a cloud service. So 1 terabyte there, I allocate for my important images. So if this session is labeled as very important to me, I put it in the cloud. The rest of the other albums are in my local storage. Okay? So be careful with this. The purpose of this is for portability, not for long-term storage. Another, I discussed this before already. You take a lot of time spending a little bit of adjustment just to make the colors right. And then it turns out you're looking at the wrong color in your monitor. So imagine you small adjustments, and then you wake up in the middle of the night, you go like, oh, I want to touch up the skin or what, and then maybe a little bit more vintage yellow color add to my shots. And then you're actually looking at the wrong display. So monitors need to be calibrated. Even Mac needs to be calibrated. Mac comes in calibrated from the factory, but it does only last 3 to 6 months after the color shifts already. So you need to recalibrate at least twice a year, if you can. If you can't, then at least once a year. Calibrate. Look for somebody who owns one. They're not going to be using every day. No, they're not going to calibrate their monitors every day. You can always borrow it for a few hours, then give it back. Right? So you need to calibrate your monitor at least twice a year. So if your monitor, if your computer Mac just came in, 3 months after, the color will shift a little bit already. So different editing softwares, we have the Adobe Camera Raw, which is part of Photoshop. If you install Photoshop, Adobe Camera Raw is part of it. I mean, re-record ko naman, so you can always check back in the recording. And then Lightroom, Capture One, Photoshop. The one I told you, around 600 pesos, is Lightroom plus Photoshop. That's around 600 pesos a month yata. So that's the photography bundle.
Is Capture One part of Adobe as well?
Which one?
Capture
No.
One.
Capture One is different. So Lightroom and Photoshop.
Sir, is Capture One free?
I don't think so. Pero before, di ko alam ha, before, when they were inviting Fuji and Sony, I believe the earlier versions of Capture One, it's free for Sony and Fujifilm. Pero the recent na mga release ni Capture One, wala na, it doesn't work. You have to pay for it. For student, they give 40% or 60% discount. So you pay a year, Capture One, around 6,000 or 7,000 pesos for 1 year. So it's difficult because what Photoshop can do is totally different than what Capture One can do. If you want to compare the two, you want to compare Capture One and Lightroom. But you cannot compare Capture One to Photoshop. Because the Photoshop can really do a lot of things. Can do a lot of editing. And between Capture One and Photoshop, it's not a comparison. You need to compare between Capture One and Lightroom. So whatever I can do in Capture One, I can also do it in Lightroom. The tethering, when I'm shooting, I tether to Capture One. Lightroom can also do that. It's just that I feel the colors are, for me personally, the colors are better for me under Capture One more than Lightroom. But that's just my personal opinion. I know a lot of photographers that are using Lightroom instead of Capture One. Question? None? I think that's my last slide's editing. I'm gonna be doing a demo on Lightroom. How does it work? Because a lot of people misunderstand how you manage your file and how Lightroom actually works. A lot of people use Lightroom as an editing software. They use open the file Lightroom, edit it, then export it, and then done. The strength of Lightroom is not in editing. The strength of Lightroom is in file management. Okay, so I need you to understand, and I want to share to you how file handling works with Lightroom and which part of it that Lightroom expects you to do and which part of it that you expect Lightroom to do for you. No? Okay. So, I downloaded some of my photo from my file server.
So even for lighting colors, do you use more Photoshop than Lightroom?
When I what? When I?
For colors and lighting?
Colors and lighting, probably I work with Lightroom or Capture One for that. When I need more tools, like working with skin, both Capture One and Lightroom can't do so much. So you need to go to Photoshop to do that. And here's the thing, I'll explain later. From Photoshop, you go back to Lightroom.
That's what I was interesting. Do you start with the lighting, Lightroom, shadows, and everything else, and then go to Photoshop for skin details?
Then go back to Lightroom. Okay. That's the workflow. A lot of people just open one file in Lightroom, edit, then export to Photoshop. From Photoshop, then they save it, and then use it already for web or what purpose. So what I'm going to share to you is the workflow goes to Lightroom, do some editing, culling, selection, photos, and then when it gets serious editing already, something that Lightroom cannot offer you anymore, then you send it to Photoshop. Photoshop offers you all the different tools and everything, you save it, and then you go back to Lightroom because that's where you're managing your files. Okay? So that's the basic workflow. And I'm going to show you how to do
Because
it.
of the file management, that's not because of the coloring.
Because of the file management side. Okay. So there's two types of Lightroom. The LRC and then the Lightroom only. The LRC is Lightroom Classic, and there's the other one, just Lightroom. The Lightroom, the non-classic version is the mobile version. Okay? Mobile. So for tablet, phone. Okay. So that's and classic is for desktop, laptops. So in terms of functionality, there's more function in Lightroom Classic and less on the mobile. The mobile is more of click, slides, those simple tools. So if you want to get serious and you want to work in your laptop or in your desktop, the Classic should work for you more. Okay? Let me see.
And if I usually have another Lightroom and I change to Classic, does the files close between?
No. Because the mobile version saves your files on the cloud. And this one allows you to do your file management locally. Okay? So, I'm gonna launch this. So, Adobe Lightroom Classic. It doesn't mean classic, it means it's old. It's just that these are used for desktop. And they can't figure out how to name the old one and the new one, so they probably just said, oh, we're gonna go with classic. So the first things first is it's gonna open the last catalog that you work with, but you can always decide this not to show up when you launch Lightroom. You can always ask Lightroom to don't bring up the last catalog, just give me a new one. So I'm just gonna cancel. I'm just gonna make a new one here. Here, new catalog. So I'm gonna call this sofa. Okay. And you're gonna be asked where you want to put it. So now this becomes your catalog, and I saved it under pictures. There, sofa. And inside, you have this LRCAT, Lightroom catalog, the rest of the other, whatever database they put there. And this is quite light, no? If I'm gonna check my properties, this is about 2.9 MB, okay? So this would matter later, okay? So 2.9 MB. Now, granting I have files. Let's say, for example, this one. I have some files here, there, the CR3, that's raw files, okay? So, I want this sofa catalog to work on these images, okay? So, I'm gonna go back to my Lightroom. Now, I'm here in my Lightroom, maybe let's make this bigger a bit. Yeah. So, I start to import, right? Because I don't have any photo in this catalog, okay? So this is where it starts. Or, if you're gonna be shooting tether, you're gonna go here and tether capture. And it's if you connect your camera to your computer, it's gonna find your camera. And all your shots while you shoot is gonna have just the same as the one I used in Capture One, right? So, either tether or you've already made your shots and you want to import. Maybe it's a card. No, probably it's a card. So when you import, a lot of photos are going to be shown. And like I've said, I wanted to work with this folder over here, capture. And then all of those photos that are in that folder will be displayed. Now, this is the critical part, okay? There are options over here. This is the critical part. So when it says add, the options are add, move, copy, copy as DNG. So this is very important for you to decide which one you're going to choose. Add means the files, the original raw files, are going to stay in the same address, and then Lightroom is going to catalog them, make preview or whatever that Lightroom needs to do with it. And then the original file stays there. Lightroom doesn't have any original copies. What they're going to do is just go and access the original file and show it to you in Lightroom. Okay? So if I'm going to do move, okay, what happens is that it's going to get the original file and move it somewhere. Okay? So if you're going to try to find your original file, they're not going to be there anymore. Lightroom's going to move it where? You decide where. That's why this time now there's destination. So if your file management style is from your card, you want to move that file so that the card will be empty. You want to move it and put it to a certain destination. That you are the one who decided where. And that's where Lightroom's going to move it. Okay? Similar to move is copy. So meaning the original file will not be removed. It's still going to be there. Now you have a duplicate copy of a certain destination of your own choice where you want to put it. Okay? I don't normally use the copy because I hate having two files and then they're heavy because they're raw. So imagine if after the shoot I finish about 40 gigs. So if I duplicate it, I get 80 gigs in my hard drive. That's a big problem, right? So what I often do is I do add. So I manually put my files in my hard drive, external or internal. I put it there and arrange them myself. Maybe I'm the guy who loves to put it on dates like December 2025. All my shots in December 2025 would fall into that folder. That depends on you. Or you wanna divide your images. You wanna go personal files, commercial files, or whatever, or editorial or beauty. That's your call. How you wanna organize yourself in your hard drive or external drive. Lightroom is expecting you to do that. Lightroom is not going to do that for you. So after you've organized all your placement in your external drive, now you call Lightroom to access them, to manage them. So how do we manage them? So granting, I have all these images over here. I'm not going to select them all. It's going to take time. So you see that there's a lot of checkboxes here. I'm going to go add. It means that I'm not going to transfer the original file wherever they are, let them be. So I'm going to uncheck all so that I'm going to just select a few, maybe over here up to maybe this set. I'm going to go maybe up to that part. And then shift, select, and then just click one box and all the selected will be checked. There, the rest of the others are not selected. And it's not asking you for where I want to put it because I'm just going to add it. I'm not duplicating, copying, moving, whatsoever. And then there's other things here you can do. From here, there's some options that are available. If there are suspected duplicates, it's not going to import it. And then also here under apply during import, you can change the name to whatever name you want. There's some options there, but there are very minor options that you can do there. But what's very important to do here is to decide. Do you want to add? Do you want to move? Do you want to copy? So that's a very important decision to make. So once you're good with that, you want to import it already. So during importing, things are going to happen here. It's going to come out with previews. It's going to try to catalog all the images. So this is the part where you want to go get your coffee and maybe watch some few clips in YouTube. Because sometimes one session will take you about 10 to 15 minutes, depending how fast your computer is. Okay? So right now it's fetching initial previews and everything, whatever it's trying to do there. So these are all my images. So let's check. In my pictures over here, this is the catalog, Lightroom catalog. Let's check how much is the file size. Right now, it's 1.53 gigabyte. Okay? So, but it's still small relative to one of my image here is around what? 30, let's find out. One image is about, that's 47 MB. No? So it means to say that it did not copy the files. It just made previews of each and every photo.
No, but the 153 is way bigger than the image.
Oh,
It
yes.
was way bigger than it was before.
Yeah.
2 megabytes.
2 megabytes, something? Yeah. Oh. Yeah, because what it did was it made preview files of each image. You can also set Lightroom to say, oh, don't give me a good preview, just a smaller size preview so that it doesn't eat a lot of my space. So what happens here is that all of this file, if you're going to add this is probably what? Around 10 or 20 gigs maybe. No? So, but it only made 1.53 because it just made preview versions of your raw files. So, let's go back to Lightroom. So in Lightroom now, these are your files. This is where you call. This is where you select those ones that you like and which one has a possibility that you're going to be editing it or not. So now you want to call the images. And there's different options here. This is the grid view. This is the preview. No? And if you want to compare images and the rest, okay? And this is if you want to tag a certain face. So right now, these are your images. So what I'm going to do is, the next thing to do is select which photos you probably want to work with. No? So you can go, and it's faster to preview it if Lightroom already made preview. Otherwise, if Lightroom did not make any preview, then every time we move from one photo to the next, it's going to keep on loading. So that's why it's best after you import, you sit, have a tea, or watch some YouTube for about 10 to 15 minutes. Once Lightroom finishes all the preview that has to be made, then it's faster to work with.
When you have been shooting using Lightroom Live, is it creating previews already?
Yeah, it will. So you don't have to wait after. Yeah. So now you decide which image you want to work with. So granting, you don't have to be strict in the first culling. You probably want to go, oh, maybe. You add the maybe to it. So this is a maybe. So I'm going to press 1. What does it mean when I press 1? It means that there's a potential in that image. Okay? And then you move. You move and try to find which one works for you. You go back. And here, maybe I'm going to go with this one. So 1. And then I'm moving and finding, going back. Maybe this one is a maybe again. Maybe. So I'm not very strict at the moment. I'm just finding images that interest me. So something that interests me. So after this, I'm just going to randomly just select. So after I made all of those rating, I'm going to go, all right, can you show me all of those images that I initially selected? Okay? So you want to go here, the lower part, there's filters. No? And then you go, can you show me the images with ratings? No. So there. Now you have all your ones, 1-star rating of the image. Now you go a little bit more strict. So if you're a little bit more strict, you go, maybe this is a 2, 2, 2, 2, 2, 2. And then now I have a combination of 2 stars and 1 star in those selection. So I'm gonna go in my rated filter, I'm gonna go show me only 2 stars. There. So these are all my 2 stars. So what I'm gonna do is, probably so that I don't have to find them later, I'm gonna come up with collections. Create a collection. I wanna do 2 stars. I'm just gonna name them 2 stars. And then create. And then go back to all photographs. Before, when I was starting out, I always go like, where can I show all my photos again? So go to your all photographs, or you can filter it again. Go to your rated, and then select 2 stars, and you can select all of them. Okay, and you can actually drag them towards your 2-star collection. So now all your 2 stars are here. So you want to go to your all photographs, it's there. So you go, oh, I want to see my selections. So these are my selections. Okay, and I can change my preview there. So Photoshop gives you the option, Lightroom pala. Lightroom gives you the option to do some quick developing in your image. No, so you go, if it's underexposed, you want to go, oh, maybe I can adjust a little bit on the exposure, or adjust a little bit of clarity and vibrance. Just to say, you wanna decide whether is this a go image, or this goes to the group or not. No, so then you can experiment and do some adjustments there. But that's not really where the editing module is. The editing module is under the develop module. But right now we are still under library. We are still managing the image. We are culling the image, finding out which one works for us. Okay? So after all of that, by the way, unlike in Photoshop where you have zoom tool, in Lightroom you have this 100%, or you go fit, or you go, there are some other options there, fill, or fit. There. So you can customize this and change this according to your setting. So now you have selected images, and you probably want to make some collection that you would say final image submission, make a collection there and just drag it. Doesn't have to be in stars, or you can go create collection and call it final. No? I'll call it final. And then if you go back to your all photographs, you can start dragging those that you think are part of the final. There. So now we have 8. And then you probably want to remove the others if you want to. There, probably want to remove them. You can find it there, remove from collection. There. So now in your final, you have 3. In your 2 stars, you have 6. And whatever way for you to manage your images. Now, if you're ready and you wanted to go start editing the image, you can go to develop. In develop module, there's a lot of, I just installed this software today. So there's a lot of different editing tools there. So here's the basic and the rest up to even calibration of the camera, what camera you're using, there's calibration there. So there's a lot of tools here, but there are things that you want to consider when working with these different tools here because you can get lost easily, okay? So here, these are your basics, and then tone and the rest, okay? In fact, I know you can actually, let me just check. I think you can manage these tools so that they don't open simultaneously at the same time. Wait, it's not there anymore. Here we go. Collapse all solo mode. Okay. So solo mode lets you open one editing tool and closes the others. Because if they're all open, you're gonna scroll quite a long time to reach the bottom and finding out, where I'm supposed to be in this, I'm supposed to be in that. So in solo mode, one tool is open every time. So the basic now is closed, the tone curve is open. And if I click here, just the same, exactly like that. Because if you allow it to go show all, then it means to say that I can open this, and that, and that. Wait, there's a lot of tutorial. So now you are going to be working with different tools all at the same time. Okay? So, basic over here is where you can find the temperature, of course, exposure, contrast, the rest of the other dynamic range adjustments over here. And tone curves is, I've discussed this in our retouching class. This is like curves in Photoshop. And we have the color mixer and some grading. Probably this image for me, I wanted this image to be a little bit warm. So I probably want to drag this towards the warm colors and probably a hint of here in my highlights. And what do I want to do with I want to go contrasty or I want to go vintage. So probably somewhere there. So now those gradings can be applied to the other images as well. Now, so I'm just discussing workflow, okay, and possibilities. So since it's a raw files and I go, I need a stronger editing applications more than Lightroom. Although Lightroom now is quite strong because you can select images already and select the background, select the foreground, select the subject. There's a lot of things that you can do with Lightroom, even some removing of blemishes on the face. You can do that in Lightroom now. But if you decided that you want to do the high-end retouching, which is the one I discussed last time, and that's only possible in Photoshop, what you're going to do is a lot of other photographers I know, is they export the image to TIFF maybe, or export it to PSD, and then open it in Photoshop. And then after they open it in Photoshop, and then from there, the process ends. No, it shouldn't be. So what you do is you need to edit the photo in Photoshop. So now you have edit in Photoshop, okay? So Lightroom's gonna call Photoshop, who goes, hey, Photoshop, can you help me with this? So Photoshop now is being called. And then the image is gonna open there. Okay? And then now you have this. Let me know. No, thank you. So now you are in Photoshop. You can do everything you want to do there. You want to do the curves, or you want to do the high-end retouching, or you can set this as your tones and your details, the same as what we've discussed. So let's just say, I'm just gonna do some very obvious adjustments here, okay? And then what I'll do is I'm gonna save it. Save. After saving, this file now is automatically saved in Lightroom. So let's go to Lightroom. So there's the file, okay? 1 of 2, and then this is 2 of 2. This is the original raw file, and this is the Photoshop version, okay? And then you wanna go, I wanna edit this image further. So let's do some obvious adjustments. I'm gonna save it again. I'm gonna go back to Lightroom, and there. Now, this is the Photoshop image. If you would notice, it says edit the TIFF, meaning that's a TIFF version na where you edit it in Photoshop. So you always go back to your Lightroom because that's where all your collections are easily found. That's where you manage all those images that you've selected and edited. Okay? It's not about the color, it's about managing the files. So,
When I go Finder, how's your folder looking like?
it's gonna be this edited file, this TIFF file, this one, that 923 edit TIFF will now be part of your, should be found under capture, right? So it should be found under one of these images here. It's not going to be saved here. No. It's going to save side by side on that original raw file because you can never edit raw file. You can edit it but save it into another file, and raw will always be the same. It will never change. You can edit it on top, do some editing on top, but the original raw file is still the same. No, it doesn't change. So you need Lightroom to edit raw files on top of it. And if you plan to decide and reset it, all of those adjustments can be deleted and you're back with your original raw file.
So let's say it's a commercial work and you done it delivered to your clients. Then if you want to clean up the space, keep the original, keep the folder you sent, you have to delete the raw file. So
Yeah.
how's it allowed to be there?
Now me, because I hate deleting files. So what I do with my commercial, I often delete it a year after. So I don't delete it myself. I ask my assistant to delete it because I can't do it. So my assistant will delete that for me. But anything that's personal, my work for magazines, work for myself, those I don't delete totally. Yeah. So raw files are so heavy. So therefore, you really want to make sure which one you want to keep. And now I'm practicing that every time I shoot, I call them, remove those that are really no possibility for me to edit them. I select them and then delete them. That I can do. So that at least my shots would be, 60% of the shots would be kept, 40% would be deleted. So that would save me a lot of space in my external drive. So now if you edit, you have two files. You have the raw plus your TIFF file, where your Photoshop file is being saved. Okay, so whatever you do in Lightroom, this raw files here, if you adjust this in Lightroom, when you open it in your Finder, it's still going to be like that because you have no way of editing raw files. That's why in photo contest before, so that to make sure that nobody is, too much editing their images too much, they ask for the raw file. And you cannot edit raw files. So they want to compare you submitted and your raw file, how much editing you apply to the image. So that's some of the photo contests before would ask for your original raw file. So they'll find out if you did a lot of cloning and a lot of things you added to it. So yeah, so that's your raw file. Now, this is the TIFF file, right? And you wonder, when Lightroom called Photoshop, Lightroom decided to export the raw file as TIFF and then send it to Photoshop. Where was that decided? You want to go to your preferences. Am I correct? Oh, it is. And then you want to go to external editing. There's your option. So, Photoshop version, and then it's going to ask, do you want to export the raw file as TIFF or do you want to export it as PSD over here? Okay? Now, by default, Lightroom is going to select TIFF, and then there's some other questions here. That's a 16-bit file. Remember, we discussed about 8-bit and 16-bit? Of course, by default, Lightroom is going to ask Photoshop to edit it in 16-bit. Why not? Because raw files like this is shot at 14-bit. So you have two containers, 8-bit and 16-bit. Your file is a 14. Where do you want to put it? 16 or 8? Of course, you want to put it 16. So you don't lose a lot of information. But if you decide to choose 8-bit, your 14-bit image is going to be compressed and reduced. All excess will be thrown away and stored in an 8-bit file and opened in Photoshop. Why do you want to go 8-bit? Because it's faster. Why do you want to go 16-bit? Because you want all the information. Whatever the file size is in 8-bit, it's going to be doubled if you export it in 16-bit. Your computer is going to crawl because 16-bit is a big file, around 80 MB in my case. If I export to TIFF, and sometimes it goes 120 MB. And then I add all those adjustments in Photoshop, I always end up around 2 gig, just one file, if I'm working with 16-bit. So I only choose 16-bit if my client requires me to work on 16-bit. If they say, oh, that's going to be used for social media, then I would inform them that I'm going to be working with 8-bit, and what editing I'll be sending to you will be based on 8-bit. If they say, oh, I need you to work on a 16-bit, okay, I'm going to charge more because it's going to take more time and resources to work on it. Okay, but if I have a choice and I have no problem with time, I have no problem with storage, I have no problem with processing power, I'm going to go with this 16. So you need to set that up. Otherwise, you need to set that up. Otherwise, you wouldn't know what you're going to get. Here, this is the color space. You can choose between the two. This Pro Photo RGB really has not so much of a need right now, but Adobe RGB is already enough. Okay? You can go Pro Photo RGB if you want to, but in my experience, there's not so much of an advantage with Pro Photo RGB. And then there's resolution and the rest. So all of the settings here are being called when you go edit in Photoshop. Okay? And you don't want Photoshop to manage your images. You want Photoshop to edit your images, but you want Lightroom to manage your images. So no matter what's your style, because from my experience, different people have different style. Some would want to work with dates. Me, I want to work with names. Whoever that model that I'm shooting with, that's what I name my folder. Some would name their folder based on the date, based on the month, so they do that. So in my case, I use the name of the model, and I don't care when was the shot as long as it's within that year 2025, And 2026, I put another folder and then just dump all the shots I made for 2026. Okay? So now, Lightroom now is managing your images. Okay? Questions with Lightroom. There's a lot of power in Lightroom this time around. I haven't really spent a lot of time. Now there's assisted culling. It's an AI that helps you select the photos that are best. It tries to identify your selections and then would suggest selections that are very near to the photos that you've selected. So if you have 4,000 images to cull, the assisted AI version will probably cut your time to half when you're selecting images. I'm not sure. I haven't really tried it myself. It's also now available in Capture One as well. But I think in terms of technology, Lightroom is a lot better than Capture One. The only thing I love about Capture One is it's good with portraits. The good thing about Lightroom is they're not focusing only on portraits. They're focusing on sports, landscape, wedding, all of those, which Capture One is a little bit weak on those other type of genre. In terms of fashion and commercial shoot, Capture One would be best. But in terms of general capability, it can cover different types of photographic genre. Then Lightroom would be the best choice. Street photographers would use Lightroom instead of Capture One. So all of those, because it's more generic, it has all the different functions that Capture One cannot offer. Question? So that's how the workflow works. It starts in Lightroom. You select your photos in Lightroom, decide which one you want to edit. And then from there, you do your development module after the library. So you do your editing according to how you feel. And then if there's no need for you to go to Photoshop, then from there you can export your photo to JPEG, PNG, TIFF, or whatever, for whatever destination that the image is going to be. And then, or if you feel like there's more editing that's needed, then go to Photoshop, save it there. Don't export or what. Save it there. It's going to appear in your catalog, in your Lightroom catalog. So it's going to be there, and then you further edit if you want, but that's where you export. That's where you select your TIFF files that you want to send to your client. That's where you export to whatever the client needs, JPEG, TIFF, PNG, whatever. That's where you export. There's an export tab there that lets you choose your format. This is where you want to put it, file naming convention, and then this is where you select you want to go PSD, TIFF, PNG, DNG. Then that's where you export. Okay, now you can select those images that you edited in Photoshop, plus those images that you feel like it doesn't need Photoshop anymore. Select them, those photos that you need, you can now export them. If it's for web purposes, then you want to go PNG because it's a lot lighter. And then if you want to go commercial client would ask for TIFF. I never give my clients raw files. Because I need to, what if I feel like after the shoot, what if I feel like this was a little bit overexposed? So I want to adjust it a little bit based on my taste. And then I export it to my client as TIFF file. And then I ask them, do you want a 16-bit TIFF file or an 8-bit TIFF file? And TIFF files are just like raw files. They're complete. Nothing is thrown away. It's the most stubborn file format. It's very heavy. But it doesn't compress or throw any information at all. So TIFF is a strong file. And then a lot of advertising agency respects TIFF file. And most of them don't ask for raw file. They just ask, do you want 8-bit or 16-bit TIFF file? And I never give them my raw. For those who doesn't understand, some clients who doesn't understand, I go, I don't think you can open my raw file because my camera is the latest. So I don't even know if you're subscribed to Lightroom and you have updated your. So you might have a problem opening it. So just send it to your TIFF because TIFF can be opened by whatever application there is because TIFF is very common and general. But it's heavy than the raw file. Question? None?
Question.
Go ahead.
Before nurses ko may ginawa ko kayong quick retouch. May gumagamit po ba talaga?
Which one? Yung sa Capture One ko ginawa? I normally do that for personal client, like clients who just wanted to have their photos taken for portraits. I do that. But for commercial, I never do that. That's a big no-no. You don't touch the images. You can work on some exposure adjustment, but never retouch the image when you're shooting. You just give them whatever you've taken and then that's it. No retouching must be done to your images. You let the retoucher do that. Unless if you're contracted to do the retouching and the photography, then you can edit your photos. But for my personal clients that are portraits, they just want to go there. They wanted their photos taken for corporate image or for their social media. Then I even asked them first, do you want this version or this version for me to submit to you? Of course, often they would really choose the one with less blemishes and clean skin. And I don't know if that's available in Lightroom already. I'll check. But I don't want to dwell too much more on the other capabilities of Lightroom because I wanted for you to understand the workflow. So when you're editing in Photoshop, either it's a TIFF or a PSD file based on your preferences. If you select PSD file, then the PSD file will be sent to Photoshop, and PSD file will be the one sent to Photoshop where you edit it. So Photoshop cannot open raw file. This is what Photoshop's gonna do. I'll show you. Ito, raw file to, di ba? Let's open it in Photoshop. I'm in Finder. Ash, wala pa. Let's go other. Photoshop. So if I open it in Photoshop, since Photoshop cannot open it, it's gonna call camera raw because Photoshop cannot open raw file. It can open TIFF, PSD, but cannot open. So I get started. So this is now in camera raw, not in Photoshop. If I go open, then Photoshop comes in. Okay, now my turn. So now I'm in Photoshop. This is not a raw file anymore. This is a PSD file. If I save this, this becomes a PSD file. Save.
Sometimes when you do that,
See, Photoshop. It becomes a Photoshop file. Yeah, say again.
putting the raw image to Photoshop, you also capture raw, and then depending on what you do, it changes the color. It gets more washed.
In Photoshop or in Camera Raw?
When you go from like your folder, you pull an image from which is a raw image, and then it opens in a different color than what you see in your Finder.
That's a possibility. Because Finder cannot display raw files properly. But Adobe Camera Raw can display your raw files based on your camera calibration. That's why in raw files, there's a calibration folder option there to choose what type of calibration you're working with. So yeah, Photoshop cannot and will never open raw files. That's why you need Lightroom to manage your raw files. You call Photoshop if you need more power, editing power, And then after the editing power, you save it, go back to your Lightroom. Photographer will work with Lightroom and will call Photoshop if it needs more help in editing and goes back to Lightroom where you're supposed to be. And in Lightroom, by the way, you have catalogs, right? You can make individual catalogs per project. And you can also come up with a Lightroom catalog where all your projects is saved in one catalog. So you can have 10 projects in one catalog. That's really up to you. You want to make it one catalog per project, or you want to go one catalog for all your projects since time immemorial. The problem is the bigger the catalog, the harder for you to find the images. So normally before when I was strictly working with Lightroom, what I do is I make one catalog for every year. I have a catalog where all my shots for that year is seen. And I also have a catalog per project. So if I feel like, what happened in 2025? I click my Lightroom 2025 catalog and I see all my shots, different projects for 2025. So that really depends on how the experience would be for you. Do you want a catalog where everything's there, or do you want a catalog that's more organized, one catalog per project?
So can I?
The reason Lightroom and Photoshop doesn't wanna do the same color adjustments as Capture One, because they also have other clients, landscape people, wedding people, the rest of the other type of photography. They need to cater to that as well. And see, Capture One is really a little bit more in a niche. We're on the commercial, portrait, and fashion photographers. You don't see landscape photographers using Capture One. You don't see street photographers using Capture One. No, you don't see that. You only see most of it on mga portraits, fashion, and commercial. Okay, other question. Wala na, that's it guys. Good night and good luck sa traffic.
I recorded